Recording in progress.
Oh, cool. We were just talking about some of the letters that I received in the past.
Oh, you are? Of course.
Yeah, so I'm gonna
I own it now, so I'm gonna know what's going on. Right. And I'm gonna keep it.
Thanks for joining us. Sorry for the volume down here.
We're hard of hearing, it's good.
We really appreciate everybody taking time out of their evening to join us this evening. I'm James Dickoff, I'm the town's Community Development Director. Up a little higher. Wow.
Uh-oh, that's good for us, yeah.
Better?
Yes.
All right. Blowing out the front row here. Well, we, again, thank you for being here. We wanted to take the opportunity to invite CDOT back. This is their second time coming to business owners in the community. Third? Yeah. Third time, you're right. Lisa was here at the last one. Sorry, Lisa. Third time, and we just wanted to give everybody an update where we currently are. And I wanted to introduce Julie Constant. She's the director of CDOT Region 5, and she's got a short presentation as well as introductions for her staff. We certainly have David Harris, our town manager, here, and we have, I don't know if I know all, Mayor Pierce is here. We also know Leonard Martinez. The school superintendent is here. Is that our only town council members? Okay. Well, I'm going to hand it over to Julie, and she can introduce her staff.
Yeah, no worries. All right, thanks everybody. Can you hear me? There we go. My voice doesn't carry, so in the back row, if I start to trail off, do this, okay? Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys. So I am Julie Constant. I am the CDOT Region 5 Transportation Director. I have been in my role for a little over 3 years now, but my one claim to fame that I do have is I was raised in Pagosa Springs. I lived here from about 76 to 92. My parents were here until about 2006 timeframe, so do have a lot of close ties to the community. And I do understand how Pagosa Springs works, survives, lives, that type of thing. So I hope you will hear that through the presentation tonight and understand that. So with me from CDOT, I have Kevin Curry. Kevin is our program engineer over this project. I have Arthur Miller. Arthur Miller is our resident engineer over this project. I have Kevin Walters in the very back of the room. He is our utility engineer on the project. And then I have Alicia Swantes and Adair Christensen, and they are our communications and information specialists on the project. So the plan tonight is I do have a presentation. We are going to talk a little bit about the history, because from talking to Mayor Pierce, there are a lot of new faces in the community, new faces in the room that may have not been here back as far as even 2016, 17, 18, when a lot of the visioning for this project really started. So I'm going to talk through a little bit about how that happened and how that started, how we got to where we're at now, And then I'm going to get into, I know there's been 2 other meetings, and I've talked to Jeremy with Goodman's, and I know we've had some other feedback, so I'm going to do my best to answer a lot of the questions and concerns and feedback that we've received so far. And then if we don't have those answered, we will definitely be available for questions and further communication. Also in the back of the room, we have some tables that we can spread apart further. Those tables have detailed design drawings, because I think one of the things we have heard is people really want to get into the nitty gritty, especially some of our business owners in the room. So we have roll plots that kind of show the big picture. Those are our signing and striping plans of what ultimately everything should look like when all is said and done. But then we also have detailed design drawings that says we're going to move this sidewalk here, we're going to extend this sewer line here, so we can actually get into those nitty-gritty details if people really want to see them. Okay, cool. So I wasn't quite working for CDOT yet in 2016 when this started, but my former region director and the former traffic engineer, Mike McVaugh, was involved with this. We worked with the town of Pagosa Springs and the Business Improvement District to restripe the east side of kind of the downtown area. We went from 1st Street to 4th Street to bring it into 1 lane each direction, have a nice big center turn lane, and start the process and give it an experimental try to see if 1 lane in each direction would actually work through this town. The configuration of the highway, I know, has been this way for a very long time, and so change is always hard. But through that experimental project, we feel like it actually worked pretty well. The only big issues we see is if we get a large platoon of cars and you're sitting in that turn lane trying to turn left in one direction or another, it can be a bit challenging. One thing this project is going to bring in is pedestrian crossings. So those lighted pedestrian crossings that we call the flashing beacons, RRFBs, we're hoping when those get lit up, that'll allow for create some breaks in traffic as well, especially during the busier summer tourist season. So we started with that experiment. And then in 2017, we were starting to look out further for bigger projects. The condition of the pavement in Pagosa Springs has not been in the best shape for a very long time. And the way our funding sources worked, the only way we had funding was just to repave it with the current pavement asphalt that we have out there, but we knew that didn't work with both the underlying soils as well as just the type of forces that are put on the asphalt with all the traffic signals and the stop and go traffic. So we knew eventually we would find some money. So we said back in 2017, let's start thinking about this. Let's start talking about how we pull this together. Town staff, James at the time was on staff, and we started talking about, well, if we're going to do this, let's do this right. Let's do a bigger picture project, and let's really look at how to make downtown more appealable, how to make downtown safer, what types of things can we implement through the rest of the downtown corridor just to make it a better overall project so we're not just throwing down concrete pavement and walking away from it. So we looked at continuing the road diet on through the downtown area up to 8th, 10th Street area. We looked at, there's a lot going on. When you have 2 lanes of traffic, you have a lot of pedestrians, especially in the summertime and even into the shoulder seasons anymore. They're wanting to cross the highway. You've got cars parking on. People are opening their doors. You've got 2 cars one car trying to pass somebody going through and another pedestrians trying to cross the road, and you don't see each other because you can get blind spots that way. So we were looking at all those types of impacts and dynamics that we have going on. So we thought a road diet on through the rest of downtown made a lot of sense. It slows traffic down. It allows you as the driver to be paying better and more attention to all the different things you have going on. It gives us more space to work with to actually have more room for when a car is parked and the door needs to open, you're not opening it into a live lane of traffic. It gives us a space to have a median in the middle of 2 blocks. I understand this is a big change, but this median, especially for the pedestrian crossing that we have there in front of the theater, and that area, we're actually going to have a concrete median in there so the pedestrians have some protection and some refuge. So if they get across 1 lane of traffic and the other one's not quite stopping yet, they've got some place to hang out and stay while they wait for that next opening. Obviously, the cars should be stopping, and hopefully they're going to have better compliance because they're actually going to see better because they won't be hidden behind a car in another lane, that type of thing going on. So it allows us to give that kind of space. Let's see what else. So we really took a hard look at that. We also did a traffic study because we do have a lot of questions of the capacity of the highway. How is it going to handle? Is it going to be okay? We knew it was handling the traffic over on the east side of the downtown area, but we wanted to confirm it was going to continue to work through the center part and then on out to the west side. We spent a lot of time with a lot of models, and it is going to work. Things are going to be slow. Things have been slow. The last several years, you've been through a construction project over there more on the west side of downtown. And in all honesty, I come through town a lot because I have to go to Denver a lot, and I have to go to other parts of the region because I'm kind of in the southwest corner of my region out of here. Looked like a lot of the traffic, in all honesty, was just going through town in one lane for the most part, especially when that construction project was going on and we knew that you would kind of come around a corner and have to merge. So we know it'll work. We know the volumes of traffic will work. Yes, it'll be slower, but it's not going to completely gridlock the entire downtown area. You will be able to keep moving through the downtown area. Let's see, we came out in September of 2018, did some stakeholder meetings right here in this building to talk about medians, to talk about the pedestrian improvements, to hear the types of things that the community at that time was concerned about and looking into. So that started a while ago, just having those communications and trying to get out in front of the community about what we were hoping to do. We partnered with the town on that plan and that project as well. You want to go to the next slide? So in February of 2020, right before COVID hit, when Donnie Vogler was still the mayor, we came over and we presented the plan to the town council that was on board at the time, and they adopted the plan, understanding this is a big change, but agreed that this was a good place for us to go. Appreciated the fact that at the time we were having these open communications and CDOT just wasn't coming in and just saying, this is what we're going to do. I want to do because this is how we do business. We've tried to become an organization that really tries to work with our communities, knowing that our highways are the main streets. Our highways are a lot of vital business and economic things happen on these main streets that are also our highways. So trying to figure out the balance between keeping traffic moving, keeping the trucks coming through town, but also making it a safe place for visitors and residents and those types of things to enjoy our downtown areas. Also in 2020, we had a new CDOT executive director come in around this time, and we started a new planning process. And we came up with this statewide strategic plan where we went out and we looked for big projects that were going to cost a lot of money, and we're figuring out how we fund those as money became available. And so Pagosa Reconstruct also ended up on that plan in 2020, and it was another big stakeholder process where we were out at public events, we went to fairs, we had pop-up events around. So we tried to very much involve the community as we were identifying those projects. But this was definitely one that got on there, and part of why it's happening, because it's a big project for us. It's a $14-15 million maybe at this point, $19 million. Thank you. So that's a big project. That's a lot of money for Region 5 because we are the smallest region in the entire state, and we get the smallest amount of money. So we have to be very careful with all of our dollars. But that planning process, the strategic funds, is helping bring this project to fruition. In 2021, Arthur and our right-of-way team came over and met with a bunch of property owners that we needed to get temporary easements and permanent easements and that were going to be impacted by the project through expanding right-of-way and that type of thing. So again, we were out in the community trying to meet with our business owners, trying to make sure they understood what was going to impact them, how the project was going to be coming through. And then in 22 and 23, Emily came in with the CDC, asked me to come over and meet with the CDC a few times. So we came to a couple of those meetings. And then in 2024, when the Cone Zone group started forming, I know we've been to 2 of those meetings too. So that's kind of a long-winded history, but we've been thinking about this project definitely since 2017. We haven't been out here constantly hitting people, and we apologize for that, but we've been trying to use the avenues that we can to let the community know we're here and we're coming. Okay, so some of the concerns and questions we've heard. One is questions on our bidding process. So right now, the project is under what we call advertisement or out for bid. We have 4 major concrete contractors that we're aware of that have sets of plans and are looking at it. One of them asked us to extend the date that we would be opening bids by a few weeks, so we listened to that, trying to make sure that, try and encourage as many contractors to be interested in this project. It is a big project. It involves a lot of utilities and concrete and pavement, and it has some asphalt pavement in it too, so there's a lot of parts and pieces. So the bids open a week from today, and as long as we get a bid that we can afford, because we do have limits there, and as long as we get a bid, then the theory is within 30 days of the bid opening, our contracts team up in Denver tries to make sure we have a contract executed and we're ready to issue notice to proceed. Sometimes that slows down a couple weeks because if it's a little bit over budget and we can find more money to bring to the table to make it happen, that takes us a little bit more time. Sometimes it takes a bit for the contractor to get their paperwork back for us to execute the contract, but in general, we aim for that 30-day window. And so if everything went okay, around May 11th, we would have an executed contract. And then what we have in the specifications, our project specifications, where we set the limitations, and this is how we expect the contractor to do work, and I'll get into more of those in a minute. We give them 15 days to 30 days from when we execute that contract to get out here and start working. And really, that window, that time count comes with them starting to buy our stockpile materials, starting to mobilize their equipment down. It's just the very beginning of the process where the wheels really start turning. So in theory, we may see work going on the ground here around mid-June if all the parts and pieces fell into place. I understand that's the beginning of summer
Tourist season.
tourist season, thank you. It is the beginning of summer tourist season, but as they come in, most likely they're not just going to come in and completely rip up half the highway and disturb everything right away. It takes time as a project starts moving for those disturbances to start to happen. It takes some time for the traffic control and that type of stuff to start setting up. But yes, that is when we will start to see them here in town and things moving in theory. While I'm on the contracting side, if for some reason, and Arthur's going to kill me, and I'm not trying to jinx you, Arthur. If for some reason we do not get bids we can afford and they're just way too high, or we don't get any bids at all, what we will do is the money that we have identified for this project can sit and hold. And so we would sit and hold it through the summer season and then rebid it in the fall. Usually we're trying our best to advertise these projects in the fall and winter timeframe because that's when the contractors seem to be the hungriest and looking for work. And we've had a few projects in the last couple of years where we've bid late in the season, didn't come in where we wanted them to. So we held and re-advertised and got better bids. So that may happen. And if it does, we'll make sure everybody knows. We'll get community blasts out. And we'll know in a week, next Thursday, what the status of that is. Okay? Let's see, what is construction management? So we have a engineering firm. Their name is Roxall. We are in the middle of final contract negotiations with them. They're not here tonight because we don't actually have a contract signed with them, and we'd all get in a bunch of trouble if they tried to come and we couldn't pay them. So once we get them on board, Mike Coggins was the project engineer on a previous project through town. He will be the project engineer again. The consulting firm has also hired public information people. We'll have 2. One of them is a former CDOT employee that used to do communications on the I-70 corridor. She's opened her own business, and she's hired a lady named Meredith out of Durango. It will be boots on the ground, and by the goal of having our public information people working directly for CDOT really is we can direct. If we're hearing that they're not doing a good job getting information out, if we're hearing they're not doing a good job communicating, we can work with them to fine tune that and make that a better process. We have more control over that and that process when we come at it from that perspective. So that's what's going on with construction management. people asked about contract time limits and those types of specifications, because I think some people felt like it may just be a free-for-all once we get the contractor in here. And it's not. This is just a small piece of our contract special provisions, and then we have a whole bunch of other manuals, and we have the actual contract that's all very much thicker. And we have plan sheets of over 500 plan sheets that just tell them what they need to do to build this project. There is a time limit, so they have 382 working days according to the contract's special provisions that we have in place. That is why it will be a 2-season job, because they're not working 382 consecutive days, but they do have 382 days to work through this project. There will be a winter shutdown somewhere in the middle of this, most likely, because contractors don't move very well and aren't very effective when it's snowing out or raining out, or like significant amounts of moisture are coming down. It makes it really hard for them to keep working. We don't always know when that time is going to come, but usually it's November, December timeframe, depending on how winter is setting in. We will be working with the contractor to make sure they button things up as much as possible to get as much as the road open. We made sure we did that with McCabe. I cannot promise we will necessarily open up 4 full lanes worth of the highway, but we will at least have 2 10.5-foot lanes open through town through the entire project. When we hit winter shutdown, we will do our best to work with the contractor to open more up if we can. Cannot make promises right now, but those are some of the things that my team is keeping in the back of their mind when they're working directly with the contractor as these types of projects go along. We also have a thing called liquidated damages, and Arthur told me not to jinx them here either. We don't like to use liquidated damages, but if the contractor has not finished the project in their 382 working days, this is our hammer that basically allows us to get some money back for the extra time we're out there. Basically what we do is we discount $8,800 a day from the payments that they're supposed to be getting to get the work done. So they still have to finish the project for us because we have a contract that says so. If they don't finish the project and they walk, we have a bond. We can pull the bond. No contractors want us to pull the bond because then it makes it really hard for them to bid other projects. So they have incentive from 1, our liquidated damages, and then 2, us having the bonds on the projects, and if they would walk, we pull the bond to go ahead and get the money to get the project done. So at $8,800 a day, that's like $80,000 if they're 10 days late. And that's, it adds up quickly. So I want to assure the community in the room, like, this is our hammer that we do have to make sure that they're working timely on this project, that they're making progress, that they're getting things done. And we do use it. We have used it, even since I've been the region director. We don't love to have to use it, but if we need to, we will. Okay, business accesses. So the project specifications say that pedestrian access to the businesses must be maintained at all times. We do not know exactly what that looks like depending on where the contractor's working at and what phase of the project they're in, but they have to figure out a way to make sure that pets can get to the front doors and can get to these businesses at all times. So keep that in mind. That is one of the hammers that we have in here. This is why we have Roxall. There'll be our eyes and ears on the floor, or on the ground all the time, but you'll also have my CDOT staff, my resident engineer, my program engineer. We are ultimately responsible to make sure this thing gets built as it needs to be, but we'll be out there making sure that we're taking care of the community as much as we can. But they have to keep pedestrian access to the businesses. Those businesses that have some parking lots along the highway, which we definitely have some, they have to do their best to keep access to those businesses too, through those driveways as well. There may be some short interruptions if they rip something up and then they need to put some concrete down. When concrete cures on a sidewalk, we've called out for the type of concrete that cures quickly. So within 6 hours or so of when a concrete goes down on a sidewalk, you should be able to be walking on it for the most part if the temperature and everything goes well. On a driveway, it's definitely going to be more like a couple of days because we got to let it get to the right strength before you get cars driving on it, because then it's going to rip the concrete up. But we do have in the concrete on the specifications that they have to keep driveway accesses open as much as possible as well. So we've talked about some lessons learned, and this was definitely some lessons learned that we've had on some other more urban projects that we've had within the region. We had a project in Buena Vista a few years ago where the contract came in and ripped up all the business accesses, all the accesses to the parking lot, and we didn't have that specification in there. We still worked with the contractor and got that resolved, but we learned from that project we got to do that. We've learned from that project as well on the ped accesses too, that we need to put that type of specifications in there. But it's in there. It's in the it's in the documents that I've got in my hands with me today. Want to go to the next slide? Okay. So also in our plans, we lay out some general phasing. I know some of the concern has been they want us to only allow the contractor to work on 2 blocks at a time. As much as I would love to try and do that to a contractor, we're going to take a 2-season job and turn it into like a 4-season job. And we've already been here in the downtown area for 3 seasons. We're going into our 4th season this year. So I know the downtown area has been feeling the pain. Plus, we were working out on the west side of town last year. We did do a lot of that paving at night, trying to minimize the impacts on the community and the traveling public. So the shorter period of time that we can be here, still trying to make sure we're mitigating for business impacts and keeping traffic and stuff open, the better I feel like it is for the community. So that's why the contract doesn't limit it just to only working 2 blocks at a time through the downtown area. The phasing that we do have in there, though, is we do require 2 lanes open at all times, 10.5-foot lanes to allow traffic to keep moving through the town. Traffic can get to downtown. Where the side streets come in, there will be some closures, but our plan with the closures is, say, Lewis Street and 4th Street will not both be closed at the same time when they're working in those intersections. They're going to have to keep one of those open, knowing that those kind of access that critical side of town, as well as that's going to be your critical access to making sure that they can get to the parking that are on the side streets. Let's see what else there. We are going to work with the town to try and get approvals to do as much night work as possible too, especially at the intersections. That will help keep those intersections open if we're doing night work. There's a specific location by the bridge over at 1st Street where it is so narrow there that they can't keep 2 lanes of traffic open at all times when they're working there. So we've told them you can only work on that piece at night so that in the daytime we can keep traffic moving through there. But in other places, it does say in here, night work will be allowed as approved by the engineer, which will be Roxall and CDOT, working with the contractor to figure out the best and the most appropriate places where we're doing night work to limit that impact as much as possible. That's main line. Side streets, yeah, again, so we're looking at those side street accesses and the closures and making sure that they're staged and they're done in a strategic way when we're doing the work right at those intersections so that we don't have key side-to-side intersections being closed. I know 3rd Street and 4th Street is another one with the middle school that's there and making sure middle school drop-off can still happen, knowing those 2 intersections are used quite a bit for that. We specifically actually call out in here that the project cannot disrupt school drop-off and school activities. So we have that protection in there too to make sure that we'll be able to get people to and from the school during this project too. Anything else on phasing?
We don't have any detours planned.
Okay, we don't technically have any detours planned onto the city streets. We try not to do that as much as possible. I know people are gonna go on the city streets, especially the people that know town anyways. But we try and keep as much as that through traffic on the highway so we're not adding that additional impact to the community and not making it unsafe on those side streets. Okay, parking. So I know that's been another hot topic too. Right now, I cannot guarantee that we're going to have parking on the main highway through town. If we required that, again, it's going to lengthen the time of our project because it's going to limit the areas and how the contractor is able to get in here and get that work done. So I know that's going to hurt, and I apologize for that. But unfortunately, this is balance that we're trying to figure out. But the Met and the cone zone And CDOT and the town are all working together to try and figure out what other access we have to parking around the edges of town and other lots and flat spots. I know a month has been spent on just gathering potential locations that we might be able to direct tourists as well as locals to be able to park. I know there's been conversations about what about a shuttle from uptown to downtown to get people downtown so they can do some shopping and stuff and still be able to get uptown and not have to bring cars with them. We don't have official plans. We don't have, know for sure exactly how this is going to work out. CDOT's been asked to look at some funding to see if there's some way we can help out. We are definitely looking at that. So there is a lot of work going on right now from that perspective to try and do everything we can to mitigate the issues with not being able to park on the highway for the project. But the Cone Zone is meeting monthly, and so every month they'll be sending out updates on where we're at with that process. We have people that have been attending those meetings, and we have people that are working, and Darren's kind of been involved with some of the conversations from CDOT's end on the parking side. So I understand that doesn't make everyone in the room happy, but unfortunately, with just the widths that we have to work with, keeping those 2 through lanes open, the contractor needs as much space with their heavy excavators and that type of stuff to get that work done within the highway. Our plan on next steps is, so assuming we get bids that we can afford, and all is going well in a week, and we get that contractor on board about early May, mid-May, the plan is we would have the contractor come on down, and we're gonna have Roxall here, and we'll be here, and at that point, the contractor has to submit us a detailed construction phasing plan, sequencing plan. CDOT has to buy off and approve of that construction phasing sequencing plan. That again is in our special provisions. Once we have that information and we come back, we will be able to tell you, okay, first they're gonna start with utilities, and they're gonna start with utilities on the east side of town. It'll be that document and that process once we have that information that we'll be able to give you guys better ideas of dates and timelines of how long we're going to be in this block and how long we're going to be in that block and how they're planning to get all of this work done that they need to get done. So I know we all are very anxious to know what side of town they're going to start on, but we find we get better bids and we get better contractors on board if we leave some of that dynamic up to them, as long as they're meeting all of our other specifications that we've asked for. So that's that partnership that we have with the contractors. We are not allowed to describe means and methods of how they necessarily get the work done, but we have specifications of the type of material that has to go in, the compression strength, the other limitations that we've put in on keeping access to the school, doing night work in these locations, keeping 2 lanes flowing, not being able to close these intersections. That's the pull and the push that we have, I guess, with the contractor is trying to figure out how to make the best of that stuff work out. So, James, anything to add from the town's perspective at this point?
I think I was just gonna maybe just describe some of the improvements. You described it roughly.
Yeah, sure. Utilities too.
Yeah, indeed. So, I mean, as Julie mentioned, this has been going on for a long time because there's a lot of coordination that goes into a project this size. And a lot of that coordination, Kevin Walter's been working with all the utility companies that serve our areas. So it's really important that they upgrade their utilities while this roadway is open. Once it converts from asphalt to concrete, the utility companies aren't going to be able to trench to repair. They're allowed to get in and repair their utilities, but they got to replace a 10 by 10 section of concrete pretty much. So it's in their best interest to make sure that their utilities are up to par before they start pouring concrete. I know for the sanitation district, for example, the contractor is required to camera the sewer lines before they start work and then camera the lines again before they pour concrete, just so we can ensure before that concrete layer goes on, there wasn't any damage from the vibration of the equipment that cracked the sewer lines or whatnot. So our sanitation district, Carl Johnson and Lucian Brewster, are going to be following that pretty closely to make sure they're on board to make any repairs as soon as they're discovered. You know, there's a lot of things that are under the ground that were never mapped back in the day. So, you know, the utility companies, when you call them locates, they're getting close. there's water lines and sewer lines in locations we don't know because we just haven't had to dig in the ground. So there could be some discoveries as they're going through town that may slow certain processes down, but the contractors that are going to be interested in this kind of project are very large, sophisticated contractors that have very sophisticated equipment and large crews to really deal with these projects pretty quickly.
And they've done this before. I forgot to mention that.
And they've done this before.
They're used to working in town urban environments.
So utilities is a big deal for sure. I know we have a geothermal line that goes into the highway between 5th and the Lewis Street Alley that we are replacing that as part of this project. And we're going to replace that full length all at once, so it's in service. We got to do it in a certain window because that's our district heating line that serves our downtown businesses. So a lot of utility work. And then I do want to mention that part of this project, the contractor is also going to be installing a crosswalk facility at Piedra Road and the highway. And that's just a project that the town was awarded a number of years ago. And we really wanted to deal with that, and CDOT offered to roll this into their project so that we have one contractor to work with. So that's going to occur at some point during their project as well. It's a really important improvement for us. Really, the only safe pedestrian crossings right now are at 8th Street and then at Pinion Causeway. So there's nothing in between that stretch. So this will be really, really important. Maybe not used a lot right now, but as soon as we get trail connectivity and whatnot, it's going to be really important to have that safe pedestrian crossing at Piedra Road. And in downtown, all the sidewalk ramps, those are going to be upgraded so they meet ADA specifications. All the crosswalks are getting improvements. Especially the bump outs that Julie mentioned. It brings pedestrians out so they're in line with the parked cars so they can see the vehicles and the vehicles can see them a lot clearer. So all those are going to be really important for safety improvements throughout town. The concrete surface is going to be very durable, much more so than asphalt. I mean, concrete typically 40-year lifespan, typically with minor maintenance requirements. We've all been dealing with potholes on Main Street for many, many years. I think we're all ready for those to go away. And the only way to really do that is to rebuild the base. And I think one of the reasons that CDOT is using concrete is if you use asphalt, you've got to dig deeper to build up that base, and then you start interfering with more utilities, but also concrete is much more durable. My perception on some of this, and Kevin may correct me. I'm looking at him, making sure I'm saying everything correctly. And we had a meeting last night with the 400 block owners and business owners and property owners. We're looking at some tree placements, potential tree placements along the 400 block. That 400 block is getting 3 more feet of width. We're getting rid of those tree planter trip hazards throughout. So we're going to go with flush grates for those trees. It'll make a lot more pleasant environment along that Main Street. We're also doing street trees and improvements along the middle school block as well. So we'll have street trees. Our plan is to have new street lights throughout town that kind of match the street lights you see between 1st and 3rd Street, kind of in front of Kips and the Humane Society. Those are the new town street light standard. Those are going to be installed throughout town between 1st and 10th Street. Along the school block and the 400 block, or historic district block, we will also include hanging baskets and irrigation for the trees, as well as hanging baskets for those 2 blocks. Those are the only 2 blocks we actually have room for street trees, so that's where we're kind of focusing that effort on currently. And otherwise, we certainly have worked with CDOT many times and other important projects downtown, and I'm happy to hear they hired Roxall, because I think we worked very closely with them as the project manager for the McCabe Creek project. And really, they did an excellent job. I know from everybody's perspective, it took too long, it was a pain in the butt, but really being in those weekly meetings, I was really impressed with that management team. They did an excellent job, I feel. And I'm looking forward to that Mike is part of this project again. So otherwise,
Got one more thing.
yeah. Julie's got something.
So we have heard from 1 or 2 businesses that have some work that they're thinking they might want to get done while we have this big contractor in town, as well as maybe some work that might kind of encroach into sidewalk or right-of-way. So we can work through that process. If it is encroaching in the right-of-way, under the sidewalk, we would need to work with the property owners. We have a permitting group that would work with the property owners to get permits in place. And then we can get people in touch with the contractor to see if the contractor is interested in that type of work to try and help. Because they're going to be here building some walls. They're going to be doing some concrete. They're going to be doing a lot of type of work that some business owners may want to have people do. And that's kind of what the town is going to be leveraging on with some of that sidewalk work as well. So, Mary Coleman?
One of the biggest requests I think has come from the downtown businesses, and that is, and as you know, the tourism season, June, July, August, and now early September. And so I go back to the phasing. Do we have any leverage to try and avoid that section of town during those critical months to save our business?
While I cannot officially say, yes, I have a ton of leveraging, we do have the construction sequencing phasing process that we're going to be working through with the contractor in May. So those are some of the things we'll be taking a little hard look at with the contractor. And if they're wanting to rip up some of those key areas right at the beginning of June in tourist season, we're going to talk to them, make sure we understand why that would be a necessity, and see if there's ways that we can get them to work on other things or other spaces and try and, at least for this first season, minimize that. And then as we go into the second season, again, we will be looking at that phasing and doing everything we can to try and minimize it. I can't promise, but I can tell you our team understands, and our team is going to do everything they can to make sure that we're doing the best we can not to be impacting that badly during those key months for you guys.
Still back to phasing the school access. Would that include night work over there, or again, maybe not at the later part of the summer, September, October, maybe that's the early part, so that would all be considered.
Those are all things we're going to be looking at with that sequencing plan, is understanding when the school schedule is, and making sure that, those intersections are open and the buses can get through and the parents can get through to be getting back and forth to the school. And we know the high school's down at 8th Street, 6th Street, through that part of town there's a network. But again, we'll be making sure those intersections are well open so students and buses and that type of thing can get out to the high school as well. And then we are actually going to be doing some asphalt replacement up towards the elementary school, because I think we're going clear up to 10th Street with some asphalt. So again, the elementary school will be part of it too. So, yes.
One of the big concerns with the businesses is parking. It's going to restrict a lot of people from shopping. A lot of people are afraid they're going to go out of business. What do you got set up for those people that are going to be financially hurt by this project?
So unfortunately, we do not have anything that we can do from that perspective, just the way our state statutes and our federal rules are written. But that is why we're working with the cone zone and the town, trying to figure out other opportunities to provide some parking in the downtown area with the loss that's on the highway.
Yes. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I have a slightly different question, same tone, but could the contractors, the ones that are bidding, could they be supplied our calendar of events so that they understand the kinds of things that we have coming up?
Yep.
And so when they're putting their proposals into you, they have an awareness of the peaks that we're going to be seeing across the summer. So that's one question.
Yep.
The second is really a comment, and that's probably for the next meeting, or whenever we schedule these things. The locals, we need to figure out our way around, and so what I'd like to do is see the county and the town talk about what we're doing for the people that work here, the people that live here, and part of the plans to maintain the roads, the alternate roads, so that in fact we can get around during the times that's taking place. So that's kind of a request for maybe the next meeting.
So on holidays and special events and that type of stuff, our project special provisions definitely pull out and point out the major holidays that the contractor is not allowed to be working on, which is pretty much any holiday that's a state holiday. And then when they're tied into 3-day weekends, there's limits there. But yes, we've done this in other towns. We've done this, we worked in Telluride a lot. And Telluride has a festival like every weekend. So we will be providing those events, those special events that are going on in the Pagosa area to the contractor, and we will be looking at that with their phasing plan as well to make sure we understand impacts or trying to minimize those impacts, especially around those special events. Yeah. Yeah, in the back.
Historically, there's been some issues with some of the concrete products that have been used in the town. I know the towns have the issue, I personally have had the issue, I know others have had the issue. What provision is there for, with regard to some sort of guarantee with regard to the quality of the product or sustainability of the product beyond just a couple of years? Because the failures we've seen have occurred within the first 12 months.
Well, CDOT has some pretty strict standards for concrete material, any material actually. But for concrete materials, we've specified out the type of concrete that is required for both the roadway and then different for the sidewalks. So they fall under some strict standards and we test everything. In fact, we test contractors to death. All of that will be followed. They have workmanship requirements that they have to follow. So I can't speak for what failures you're running into, but our concrete is usually pretty well scrutinized.
And if they don't meet those standards and they don't pass those tests, they don't get paid. So then they have to rip it out and come back and put it back in so it meets the standards and the specs. And we have done that on projects before. So though when Kevin says we test them to death, that's part of the hammer that we have to make sure they're meeting our specifications. Yes.
So I'm hearing a lot as a business owner on Main Street. I'm hearing a lot of like CDOT this, CDOT that. It's all great for CDOT, but I'm not hearing anything about what you're going to do for us. You know, you're talking a lot about getting money back if they don't finish. So you can get 80 grand back. Great for you. What happens to our livelihood? And you have nothing to say about that.
Unfortunately, the way our processes work, you're right. And we do not have a financial mechanism to reimburse businesses for their loss of income.
So who is going to oversee this? The making sure that the contractors aren't ripping up too much at a time. Are you going to be there on site every day?
That is
Are you putting your trust in these people? Because from the other project, clearly you couldn't trust them because it took 3 years longer than normal.
So the reason why the last project took 3 years is there was a lot of drainage channel work. And when it rained a bunch those summers and we had a lot of very heavy winters, we had a lot of water coming down that channel. And when the contractor can't work in the channel because they were needing to do a lot of rock lining, building check dams, doing that type of work, putting box culverts in, the only way they could do that was when the water was low and down. So it was because of those events that were outside of our control that project took so long. I understand there were also some rumors out there that we pulled that contractor to go do other work. We didn't. That contractor was dedicated to that project. And so yes, we have a construction management team that will be here on the floor every single day. They will be looking at the construction phasing plan with us. They will be making sure the contractor is following it. If the contractor is wanting to change it, they'll be working with them. And in the background, Arthur lives 2 hours away. Kevin lives an hour away. I live an hour away. We will be here and we will be available if issues are coming up. But the construction management team that we have is a very good, well-respected construction management team that we have a lot of faith in.
So that leads me to my next question is, you know, Pagosa Springs does have a monsoon season. And every single day from June, July, and August, it rains from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So they're not going to do anything during those times because they can't work in the rain. I mean, come on.
So this is a
Let's
different
be
type
real
of,
here.
this is a different type of project. This is not drainage channel work. When they were needing to be in the drainage channel with the water lower, that's why we couldn't work when the weather was going on. We will have to watch the type of work that they are doing, especially when monsoon season hits and we're getting a decent amount of water because of how it impacts the subbase and that type of thing. But we can still be doing utility work and other work even on those afternoons when it's raining.
So when you have 382 days to complete this work, and 90 of those days during June, July, and August are monsoon days, how do you plan to explain that to us when it's taking you 4 years to do this because of your rainy season? When you are aware that that rainy season is coming, so you should be preparing for that at the moment now.
You want to help?
Well, keep in mind that McCabe is like working in the bottom of a ditch. And when you're dealing with a 26 square mile drainage basin that comes down through McCabe, that kind of holds the contractor up. This is mainly a surface job, and I say mainly. We have a lot of underground utility work, but nothing to the extent that McCabe was. And so they have a lot more flexibility to be able to do work, even if there's rain, depending on how much rain. There's going to be slow ups. There's going to be times when they just can't do anything, especially if they're planning a concrete pour and are expecting rain, they may pause. But it's not going to be the same kind of a job as working in a ditch.
Understood.
And we're anticipating based upon the type of work, we've done these types of projects before. These 382 days, we think are gonna be sufficient to get this job done to keep it at a 2-season job.
It all sounds great, but at what expense? The livelihood of how many people rely on their businesses to survive.
Yeah.
I do understand,
Because you get to keep your job.
Mm-hmm.
I do understand that.
I have a question.
Yes.
Oh,
Go ahead.
you said that they will have paths and access to parking lots and to the business. That would be beneficial to us. Okay. Where do we park? If the parking spaces.
So the question was, we require that there's gonna be pedestrian access to the businesses, which there are. The question is, where do we park? So as I said before, we are working with the groups in town to figure out some additional parking places that we can direct people to. And there's the side street parking, and then the group is also working on maybe trying to get a shuttle coming from uptown to downtown and looking at some opportunities. I don't have specific answers on how the highway parking gets replaced right now, but I can tell you there's a very diligent group of people working through that and trying to come up with solutions. So we continue to do the best we can to minimize impacts on our
You said
businesses.
side parking and shuttles, so it'd be mostly shuttles?
I don't know for sure yet. Those are some of the details we're working on. We'll have more details hopefully in a month or so.
Yes.
Hi Julie, I'm Jeremy from Goodman's.
Yeah.
It's good to finally put a face.
Yeah.
So, first off, I want to say thank you to you guys for coming down here. I appreciate you and the team coming down and talking to us. It's not with the intent to beat you up, but it is to kind of express to you how dangerous this is for our businesses. The majority of our income does come in. I looked at my numbers last year, and I had a 100% rise in revenue from June 14th to June 15th. And that continued until the end of July, and it tapers off through August. It's still a very good month in August, and then September it really drops off. And then mid-November it picks back up through the end of December, and then we're dead January through April. So we're feeling passionate
Townsend.
with this, not because of the project that we saw 10 years ago and that we were in agreement on 10 years ago. The problem is that how it's being done and the timing in which it's being done. So our fear is that it's like we could have started a month ago on this project, and it would have impacted my business minimally, minus spring break, which would have hurt, but it would hurt a lot less than July. And that first week of July, I need that whole week. I don't need the weekend. And we're talking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for the downtown businesses, and there's not that many of them that will lose significant revenue in just that second half of July because we have such a huge influx of people. Additionally, the traffic is heavy. You're all the way up to Putt Hill with the 4 lanes that we have. You're all the way outside of town and you're creeping in through town, let alone having construction projects through them. And then we're talking about utilities, half of our sidewalk being tore up, or 12 feet of our sidewalk being tore up. But essentially, from last meeting, I gathered that it sounds like we're going to have 6 feet of walkway. But we're still trying to talk about putting the influx of people that we have that barely fit through the 12 feet we have into that 6 feet of walkway down the 400 block. And so you combine all that, and then you look at the actual timetable that we're looking at. We're starting mid-June, which again, my revenue is supposed to double that time of year. I can tell you, I've been paying to stay open the rest of the year because I try to take care of the locals here 100% of the time. I can't just do business based off of tourism because that's not taking care of my town. And where we see the long-term impacts of this is that I don't see tourists coming back next year when they wasted their money this year on the 4th of July and spent their vacation money to come here now. They're going to go to Durango rather than finding a parking lot that they get shuttled in from. And so they go to Durango, they spend their vacation there. I don't see them wasting the money to come back next year. So how many years is it going to take to build that up? And if we lose all of downtown, we're gonna lose our tourism. We're gonna lose Walmart and City Market, because I guarantee you that 70% of their revenue is from the tourists, just like it is for me. And Pagosa will die. So again, I'm not saying that I disagree with the project. Where I'm struggling, and I've talked to a lot of businesses, is the timing of this project. We're starting this project, and just after what you said, we could be starting this in September. And we could be getting that bid and getting ground broken in March, April of next year, when the timing is correct. And I don't see why we're not doing that. So if it's a possibility, I feel like the businesses would really appreciate that. The second half of it is if, say, we do get a bid by May, and we're trying to talk sequencing with them, bringing it down to just the brass of it, of what a contract is it's agreement between one person and another. Once both signatures are on that line, that's all they're held to. So I see where CDOT wants to step in and say, hey, we need to be able to approve the sequencing, but I'm not hearing the right verbiage of what you can control in that sequencing to ensure that if they can start on a part or start on a part of town that won't be impacting our business district, that you guys can actually make them do that during our 3 months of really good revenue, and then have them come in on our slow months. Because I want this project to happen. I fully support you, and I've worked for the state for 10 years. I appreciate what you're restricted to and everything like that. It's just, I feel like we are pushing this to happen now rather than at the right time, and we're not putting in the right restrictions to make sure that it's happening at the right time and the right way. So just kind of curious as to what your feedback would be to that, on what you're willing to do to step out and protect us as businesses. Because it's not just the 400 block, it's not just our families that are gonna go from making a living and working 80 hours a week to do it to take care of our employees and their families, but it's gonna impact the businesses uptown, and it's gonna impact their families, and it's gonna impact our community, and I don't wanna be Monte Vista. So it just.
We've heard from several that we killed Monte Vista, but I guess none of our team have those memories, recollection. But anyways,
I can tell you, my father-in-law owns numerous buildings there where they lost all their tenants. They took a huge loss on their investment, and they're still struggling with the buildings now. The whole Main Street is dead, and it happened during CDOT's project to rebuild their town. J.R. Ford brought it up in our last meeting, and I think it's Lisa, correct?
Yes.
Yes, Lisa. So Lisa probably has the notes that Adair was taking.
yeah,
So J.R. Ford was partners with my father-in-law when they made the investment there, and they were there when they did the Main Street project there, and it killed the town. It's still not in business now.
Monte Vista aside, our contract documents do require CDOT to approve the construction sequencing phasing plan. So that is our trigger and that is our hammer to work with the contractor to look at what their plan is and how they're planning to construct that project and how it's going to impact town. I understand right now the timing, if we actually get a bid we can afford to get this project done, is terrible timing. I get that. But that's some of what we're going to be looking at with that construction sequencing phasing plan, is figure out how we're going to get this project moving. Understanding we're going to have business impacts, but trying to minimize those as much as possible. So I appreciate the feedback and I appreciate the input from the perspective of looking at places that they can start where we're not necessarily ripping up the whole north side of the highway on day one in mid-June when you guys are starting to get into business, right? So those are some of the things that we're going to be looking at with that phasing plan to try and do the best we can through those active summer months to limit those impacts. I can't tell you right now what they're going to be until we actually get the contractor on board and those phasing plans in hand. So that's the best I can give you, but that requirement is in here, which is part of the contract documents that both CDOT and the contractor sign.
I feel like that's very broad. I totally understand what he's saying, but you're talking like businesses are just when you walk through the door. Like the biggest thing was if we give them access to come in, right? But I'm building a patio on our place that's on Main Street right now that I'm assuming is going to be shut down for months because you're not gonna be able to hear anybody that's on it. But in order to make my business plan work was I needed to double occupancy. The only way I could do that was to add a patio. So I think it gets real specific as to how you're gonna do things. It can't be this big blanket item or or this block to this block. Livelihoods are gonna be affected for sure.
I understand livelihoods are gonna be affected. I understand businesses are gonna be affected. Believe me, I do.
How? How do you say that with a straight face?
I do. Unfortunately, I wish I had a pot of money I could come in and give the businesses
It's
money.
not about that. We
but
don't want that. We're entrepreneurs. We make our own money.
But the construction sequencing phasing plan gets into those details. It tells us exactly what day of what month that they're planning to do this work in this location. That is the process. So it's not general. That is the process. It will be many, many pages of a document that we will be thumbing through and going through with the contractor to make me understand that. And then we'll come back and be talking with the businesses to make sure the businesses understand when we're looking at working at.
Would I expect CDOT that at some point will come in and tell me when I will need to shut my patio down because it's not safe for my patrons to be out there?
Yes, that will be part of our public communication and outreach that we will be doing with the contractor as we're getting this project going, understanding we have a lot of businesses right there.
We have several other
So-
folks who wanna ask a question in here.
So do you have somebody other than the city council, like one of these guys that own a business, sitting in on those meetings so that they can say, that doesn't work for our downtown?
That will be, once we have a plan and we know what the contractor wants to do,
But
we
that's
agree
too
with
late.
that, hold on, no. Cause part of it will be going back and meeting with the businesses in the communities that we're working right in front of to make sure they understand what the plan is, and if they say that doesn't work, then we'll be working with the contractor to figure out what's gonna work.
So when the
So we've done
contractor
this
says,
before.
well, that just messes up my whole summer, then what do you do to
There's
these people here?
gonna be some give and take on all sides with this. That's all I can tell you right now. So I understand there's more questions, but it feels like we're having the same conversation over and over and over again. So we do have plan sheets at the back of the room, with detailed plan sheets of what we're planning to do everywhere, throughout the project. I'm happy to take a couple more questions, but this is the best I can give you right now until I have a contractor on board, until we have that plan in place. And yes, it will be an interactive, iterative process. It's not just gonna be us rubber stamping whatever the contractor gives us.
I'd like to say something, because I own San Juan Mercantile, the business directly right. You came in and said the same thing. That project took double the time. I had to park my vehicle across my median just to have cars come in. I went to James Dickoff. I went to you. I went to everybody else to explain what you're saying in a contract doesn't mean anything to these. These business owners in downtown haven't dealt with what I have had to deal with for 2 years, but they're fixing to, and they're gonna find out that your contract doesn't really mean diddly squat. Because I'm gonna tell you what, now, under my understanding is, you don't even have any bids up on right now, is that correct?
We don't open bids until a week from today.
Okay. So the deal is, and then if they do, they have 30 days to start the project, and if they don't get bids or they don't get accepted bids, then they start again in fall. I don't think the timing here, like he is saying downtown, it is. We only have a certain amount of months that we make up the whole year, okay? But I was next door, I've had to deal with it for 2.5 years. And what I had to deal with was, oh yeah, there's gonna be flaggers out there to have flaggers come in. No flaggers. And when there is flaggers, they're out there on their phone, and I go out there and tell them, what are you doing? Well, I'm a flagger.
That's true.
Well, can you identify? So then I go to the contractor, because I went to you guys, went to James Dickoff. They said, oh no, go to the contractor about the flaggers. I do. There's nothing that gets done. So once you start this project, there's gonna be all kinds of hiccups that I wanna know, like you say, well, if the contract isn't done by 382 days, we're gonna fine them $8,800 a day. On a $19 million project, that's a laugh. I'm sorry. And you said you were gonna find the contractor too that did the creek. I talked to the contractor, and you won't believe what I got reference. This is what the people are fed up of, because when I said, I thought you guys were gonna be done in this time. Oh no, I got from inside that they had to have another project done because they were getting fined daily, and Pagosa wasn't enforcing their fines. So they went and had another project completed. Now I did hear that. And I also, they started doing the work on the creek. They dug it all out. They poured cement. They put their rock. And I'm like, cool. I go out there. I'm like, okay, you're going to take down all your chain link so I can have parking. I planned outdoor events. I planned all kinds of things. Oh no, we're not going to take down this fence because we got to come back in March. For what? To redo what we just did. It didn't make any sense. There's no common sense in this to me at all, because I said, you got to be joking. You just poured this cement and put rock, and you're going to come back to redo it? Yeah, we have to come back and redo it and cut it back another 8 feet. Didn't make sense to me. When I questioned, nobody could answer. Nobody could answer any of my questions. We got caught up in a political joke, is what I see. And the other deal is $8,800 a day. Well, if the businesses here are told that it's going to take 382 days, we are the businesses. We say if we're going to accept 382 days, then that's what it's going to be. And if it's going to be $8,800 a day, divided amongst the businesses that it's impacting.
That's right.
Because if you've already got the money set aside to pay for the project, getting $8,800 a day back, where's it going? It should go back to the businesses, because we know damn right well it's not going to take just 382 days.
Yep.
It didn't for any project in Pagosa that has ever been the time. You can say, well, it's rainfall, well, it's this, well, it's that. It doesn't. So let's take that $8,800 a day and set aside to the businesses it's impacting. It's not going to make much of a difference, but it'll help, because it's going to kill the downtown. It's going to kill downtown. And you say you're going to have easement to pedestrians. My sidewalk was cut off. It was cut off from Lewis Street to my building. It was cut off. The sidewalk was closed. Signs were put up, and I said, okay, you're cutting off my driveway. You're cutting off my sidewalk. Sorry, that's just what we have to do. Really? Sorry? Doesn't pay my light bill. It doesn't pay the light bill. It doesn't pay the phone bill. And I really think that you need to put your money for the financing about to the deal and make them stick to 382 days. Make them stick to that. And this media you're going to put in the middle of the highway, and you tell me that you do that because pedestrians are going to be safe in the media to hop across. Have you seen snowplows? We get snow here in Pagosa, by the way, pretty bad. And they plow. And it goes in the middle. So how's a pedestrian going to cross the street, climb a hill on the snow? It doesn't make any sense. And then I also saw that you spent so much money for all this art to go in that media. What happens when the snow knocks down the art? I mean, that we're paying millions of dollars for. The media, it doesn't affect my business. It is to some of the downtown. And to me, of common sense, nobody's looking at common sense of a media where you get 3 feet of snow and it's going to be piles that way. How is pedestrians even going to make it to one side to the other? You can't, a snowplow can't plow a median. There's medium. There's no way that's going to happen. And that's just, it doesn't make sense of some of the things that are being implemented and the dollars that are involved. And the other meetings that I have gone to, when I have spoke out about this, they tell me, oh, Cindy, you're just not in for change. And I said, no, I'm just looking at common sense to it. Well, if it does, you know what my answer was from the city? Well, if it doesn't work, we can always redo it. Yeah, with our money. Okay? So don't you think that we should have a say about maybe, is this media really necessary for snow? I mean, we understand you're trying to make it safe in the summertime for pedestrians, but we get a lot of hunters, we get a lot of Christmas people, we get a lot of holiday people,
Skiers,
and they're always walking around. They're not going to be able to cross the street once it's plowed and they have a 3-foot berm in the middle of their highway.
You got that without the media.
Yeah, I don't understand.
So at this point, it feels like we're going in a bit of circles. So
No.
we are. We're talking about the same thing over and over and over again. I have lots of explanation about the medians. Through those 2 blocks, no, we will not be plowing snow on top of those medians. They will be going to the side of the road. We will be working with the town of Pagosa Springs on how that's going to get removed.
in front of the sidewalk.
Just like
Let's be respectful, everybody. This is an important project for the town.
I understand there's a ton of emotion in this room. I get it. But it feels like right now the questions are going in circles. I am happy to address the medians and what's going to go on with how they're going to be plowing snow and that type of thing. If I could give back the businesses money, again, as I've said 3 times already, I would, but I can't. That $8,800 a day that gets charged in liquidated damages covers my staff time, the consultant's times to be out here for a longer project if that ends up happening. What you heard on McCabe is different than what we understand, so we're gonna have to agree to disagree on some of that. But the reality is, I don't have really, I've covered everything I can. I don't have better answers at this point, but I can assure you that my team, we are here to help. And so we have plans in the back of the room. I will be up here in the front of the room if you want to have one-on-one conversations. But at
Just
this
answer one more
point,
question. You had how much time from McCabe's, how much time period and how long did it take?
again, the reason why McCabe Creek took so long is it was a drainage channel project mostly, and we had a lot of water.
Same excuses.
Yeah, that was the same year, if you remember, that all the culverts got washed out. So it wasn't just this project, it was region-wide, right? So just make sure we're putting this perspective. We're not here to beat up CDOT, we're here to express our concerns respectfully. And then we were gonna have some time to meet with business owners and property owners to go over specific areas of town. So if they have any questions on what's happening, demo-wise and construction-wise, we can have some of those discussions after we get through some of these general questions.
And I probably went, hold on, just from the fact that started this, and I'm sorry, because motions are intense. You're talking about our livelihood, okay, and I apologize for that. But I've had to directly deal with that, and I'm just looking at these other business owners going, you guys have no idea, because it's gonna affect, it's gonna hurt. And I already see with our gas prices and everything else, I hear so many tourism going to Durango and other places. One other question that I do have is Maintown Pagosa is a very old structure, okay? I've been in the cement business back years ago, and I know that compressing dirt is 400 pounds per square inch. And I also have been up the alley behind Memory Lane and watched the building falling, rocks falling. And I know when they come in with jackhammers to compress that dirt to lay that 2 feet of cement, I know that. When damages are done to the structures of Maintown, okay, I'm not gonna be affected with that. I don't own my building, Cody Ross does. But I know from experience of being in the cement work in earlier days, there is going to be significant structural damage to downtown Pagosa.
I don't think you can say that.
Yes, you
I can
can.
tell you that contractor has insurance liability.
Yes,
So
CDOT and
if they damage something, the contractor's gonna be required to address that through their insurance.
But I mean, they're gonna damage
And you
not
can't
because
just
it's touching
can't make an assumption that we're gonna cause damage to all these buildings. I don't think that's a fair statement.
No, I'm just saying with that jackhammer,
that's
I
what you
don't know
just
if
said.
you've been in that alley. If damages are caused, if things start to crumble, there's tunnels underneath there too. If things start to crumble, I just wanna know what kind of repercussions, which like I said, I'm looking at my fellow. Is there an insurance policy in
There
place?
is. Yes. We have a process for that. So again,
Julie, just before you go,
I'm not going anywhere.
I'm begging you, like I sent you that letter, and I said I was gonna go to the director of CDOT with it. I went to you because you were the highest level that I thought was reasonable to go to address this. These questions are hard, they're very direct, they're very emotional. If they're not asked here to you,
Agreed.
they're going to be going somewhere else, and the people need to hear these questions. You just answered a question that did have an answer that you could provide, and I see only frustration growing and this getting worse if we don't hash this out tonight.
Right. So,
And
but
I
what
beg
I'm
of you just take the
proposing
time.
that we do, because I see about 3 or 4 hands up, is those that are interested in seeing the plan sets. I brought all my team here to talk through plan sets and to talk through those direct impacts. So let's. Sorry.
All right, so what I'm proposing we do, I see 3 or 4 hands up. I'm not going anywhere, so come up and talk to me, okay? And I have all my other team here with me that brought specific plans, that brought detailed plan sheets, because that was one thing we heard businesses wanted to see. So let's spend some time looking at those. If you want to talk to me directly and continue to voice those frustrations and concerns, I am here. And Jeremy, yes,
We'd like a commitment out of you.
I am here because I care.
We would like out of you, because we're not gonna like this. I went through Monte Vista. I can tell you what you guys did wrong. I live on 4 Mile Road. I can tell you what went wrong there. I have the dam upstream that you guys are trying to block. So there are things that could be done differently. All we're asking is, you made a comment earlier,
all I'm asking. You made a comment earlier that you were gonna get a proposal from the contractor on his work schedule. And when he gave that to you, then you guys would negotiate that out. All I ask is that before you agree to that work schedule, that somebody in this group is able to look at that, because you tell us we can't sectionalize this. Well, that is the big mistake you made in Monte Vista. You let them open the whole thing up. And so I have government contracts, and they put stipulations on me and tell me how many acres I can use, how many acres I can be on, and they limit what area that I'm gonna interact with the mountain bikers or hikers or things like that. So you can't sit here and tell me the state highway department can't tell that contractor, hey, in this town, because this is the main highway through town, we need these concessions. And most contractors are gonna be able to live with that. But we hear you constantly saying, we can't tell anything until we have a contractor.
That's not what I have said tonight, JR. If you have listened to me,
And-
JR,
but then
I
the
have,
next step is, you're gonna negotiate a work plan. Well,
Yes.
we need to be involved
I
in between
understand that the
because-
business owners need comfort and need to understand what that plan might look like and need to be able to provide some input on whether or not that's gonna work and what that's gonna do to you. I hear you loud and clear.
Thank you.
That is one of my commitments that we will be taking a very hard look at, and we will figure out how to best have that communication once we're at that point. And how we're talking with the business owners and making sure they understand what may or may not be happening and having that conversation of whether or not that's gonna work.
And which is why we're hiring public information people through our management contractor to run the public information contact, which means contact with all of you, right? Usually we make the contractor hire the public information person. We're not doing it that way this time.
I guess the problem with that is we have input to our community. We're a small town. We have input to the people that control our town. We can talk to James. You guys are state. You guys work for us in a roundabout way. We have to pay taxes. That independent contractor, I just think it's somebody's gonna get in the way. I expect
They
you
work
guys
for
to
us.
help
They'll be working for us, not for the contractor.
But even,
It's a different setup.
so
We
I
don't
guess-
usually do it that way.
I guess the concern is like when Lisa came, and you did a great job, this is not a knock on you at all. But when Lisa came to the last meeting, I was hoping you guys would be there specifically because of the timetable. We're pushing it too close to when we're actually setting up the bid. And we're hashing this stuff out way too close to that. We asked Lisa a ton of questions. We got a lot of those questions answered today, a month later. And we're not talking about a month from now when we can be addressing this stuff, when we're giving feedback at the next meeting. We're talking about next week, a bid's going out. We're gonna start being held accountable to what the state's agreeing to with the contractor.
So as my presentation talked about, we open bids next Thursday.
Yes.
delay that? Why does it have to be next Thursday?
Once we have the bids out there, we need to go through this process. And the detail you're asking for, we're not gonna put that detail into a contract with a contractor. If we try to do that, we're second guessing how the contractor's gonna get the job done. Like I touched on, this is that balance between CDOT and the contractor in the means and the methods.
The entire schedule, I think.
Pushing it out at this point,
Is it
yeah.
an economic thing for the bidding, if you ask a contractor to just come in, do the bid, kind of do some, whatever they can do early, but hold off until the summer, so you're not going in June, opening up in June, that
It's
to
just
me
very
feels like
black
is
and
what.
white.
I understand that the
Is that a
timing of
cost
this
thing,
is
or-
very concerning.
But you
At
don't
this
care,
point,
or else you would push it back.
At this point, the contractors have already put work into these bids. I know that because they've asked us a few questions and they're looking at it. So out of respect for the contracting community, if I just cancel the bids at this point and tell them, nope, never mind, I'm gonna come back in the fall, yes, they've done some work, but that doesn't respect our relationship that we have with the contracting community necessarily either. No, the bids are, our advertisement is out there. All these documents are out there. The contractors are looking at them. We open their bids in a week. We usually put these out for 3 weeks, and this one's been out, what, for 6 weeks? To give the contractors plenty of time. So the contractors have had this information for 6 weeks. The level of detail that you're asking for us to put into these contract documents is not realistic in how we can bid a project. We need the contractor on board as a partner with us as we're putting these phasing plans together. If we did something like that on those phasing plans, the cost of the project would be way more than we could afford. And again, the contractors know what they're doing. This is not their first rodeo. They've been through these types of projects before. I understand you want us to delay it. I get it. I can't make promises tonight whether or not I can delay it, but I can tell you, I hear you, okay? I hear the timing is bad. I hear you have concerns on the timing. Please know that. I'm not gonna make any promises right now on the timing. Because we are in a process right now with the bidding that we need to go ahead and open these bids and see what happens. We may not get any bids. That has happened to us before.
And I do want to mention.
We may only get one bid that we can afford, or we may not get any bids we can afford. So that's when we come back to the drawing table. Go ahead, Lisa.
No, I just want to say every question that was asked at the last meeting was documented and answered, and we shared that with Kat and Emily. So let's publish those if you haven't already.
We did already.
Okay, so
Everybody who signed up for the Cone Zone newsletter has access, and if you haven't signed up for the Cone Zone newsletter, then contact Kat at pagosaspringscdc.org, and I'll put you on it.
I just have one more question. What is the hurt of us asking that you just try to work with a contractor to do 2 blocks at a time? If you have not presented that to a contractor and they have looked at you and said, absolutely not, we're not gonna do your job unless we do it this way, then what is the hurt in asking? I mean, it never hurts to ask somebody to say, hey, if you take this job, can you accommodate 2 blocks at a time for our town? The fact that you don't want to attempt to try to ask that to a contractor because you're the fear of refusal for your project is actually pretty sad to say, to be honest. It never hurts to ask. How many times in your life have you said, well, I'll ask. Why not? And he might say, heck yeah, I love Pagosa Springs. I want to see it strive. I'm going to do this project for you. I'm going to do it 2 blocks at a time. And I'm going to watch it work out the way that it should work out for these places. But if we don't try, then we're not really trying at all.
Note taken. And again, construction, sequencing, phasing plan is where we'll be looking at those types of things.
Yeah,
Stand up.
That you just
Stand
said,
up.
That you just said that
Yeah,
you
stand
weren't
up.
going to
Otherwise, you're
try.
going to
I
ignore
did
you.
not say that. I said we will be looking
Okay,
at those
sorry.
types of things with the construction,
Yeah.
sequencing,
Yeah.
phasing.
I think
Okay?
that's just something that would
We will
ease our
making
mind.
sure that the contractor knows, and these contractors know the issues that you're seeing, that we're gonna be seeing with the businesses, with this work going on, especially in the times of the years the work is going on. Yes, you've been super patient.
Evelyn Tennyson. I've got 3 businesses in town, and I'm not gonna make any friends in here. First of all, you asked why the bids have to go out now. Have you ever ordered any construction or anything in Pagosa? You can get your bid now, and I guarantee you're not gonna get the work done until next spring. The fact that they're asking for bids now, I don't see a problem. They can postpone it at any time, but let's get the bid and see what it's gonna cost. The other thing is, we're putting everything on CDOT, okay? Yes, we need to get their help, but why don't we as business owners get together and form an idea? How can we help each other? Instead of just putting everything on CDOT or everything on the town. I'm willing to do a ton of stuff. I own the theater, the bar next door, and 2 Old Crows. We'll give discounts to people that if they come in and they go to Lost Cajun and they can show us their receipt and prove to us that they went there. Why don't we all help each other in this instead of just,
Because your help will not make up
we
for the
don't
revenue.
know, do we know that? We
Yes, I know.
Look, I've been in here 8, 9 years too, you know. Right now, it's killing me, you know.
Have you owned a retail store though?
I own 2 Old Crows,
Okay.
okay,
So-
and the one next to it, and the
So
event
if
center
you're-
down the street.
If your sidewalk to the entrance of your building is
They're
broken
not
up,
gonna block it, they're gonna block part, we're
If it's
still
broken
gonna
up.
have access,
I
okay?
understand. What I'm saying to you is that we can try and give each other deals based on receipts being stamped however way you like. If there's no customers that are bringing in receipts,
We're
there's no deals to be
assuming
made.
people aren't gonna come to town. If I have a trip planned here, Do you think I'd cancel my trip to Europe
So-
because the Paris streets are torn
So,
up?
back to what I told Julie,
You know?
we're not talking about not wanting the project to happen. I'm all about the project.
And I'm not saying to block it all summer, okay? But they don't even know yet. We're jumping all over their butts.
And I agree.
We want them to help us.
I think,
right?
I do think that we do need to be respectful to CDOT, and we need to kind of tone down our emotions a little bit, because Julie did step out of her normal element to be here to work with us on this. And I think that's important, because the moment we start fighting with them on it, they will shut down, and that feedback is going to be very limited, okay? But with that, there are some considerations that, for us, it feels like a coin flip with some of the commitments or lack thereof that have been made on how much we will be impacted, and the preparation time that we need to prepare for those impacts is not there. Unlike the theater, I spend $400,000 to buy inventory for the summer. If I have no customers for the summer, it costs me $1,500 a day to be open. So that's roughly $45,000 a month. And then I'm spending $400,000 in inventory that I can't sell in the winter because it's summer clothing. So I'm eating $400,000 plus $45,000 a month for 3 months straight. I have an emergency fund. It doesn't cover that kind of emergency. And it's because I don't have time to prepare for it, because I have to buy my product in January to receive it on time. And that's what I'm saying, is that we fully support CDOT making our city better and getting behind you in the project. The problem has been, when I talked to James in September, it was, we're looking at 1 to 2 block segments, and I looked and I was like, dang, that's gonna hurt. But I can survive that. Then it was, all right, we're gonna be tearing up the sidewalk during these 1 to 2 block segments. And I'm like, all right, I can survive that. Suddenly there are no restrictions on segments other than keeping 2 lanes of traffic open. And the answer to that was, it's gonna save money. But that's very short-sighted. And that's where it scares me. And that's why I reached out to all y'all, is because I don't want to be a thorn in your side. I want to communicate with you respectfully. I don't want to be going to the director of CDOT, my congressman, my state representatives, and whoever else that'll hear me. I want to be supportive of your project, but I need some commitments. That's us meeting in the middle and finding some middle ground there. It's that way, you know, it's like, hey, I'm going to support you and do what you need me to do to make sure I'm out of your way and helping the public along with this. But I need you to meet me halfway and saying, hey, you know what? If the contractor comes to me in May, says this is their plan, and they're going to tear up Main Street at the beginning of June through July, then I'm going to tell them no, and we're going to hold off on signing that contract, and we're going to try again in the fall. The other part that scares me is I hear, well, we put the bid out there, so we really need to make sure that we move forward with this contract and don't delay it. There's a difference between need and must. And I don't believe you must move forward with this contract based on the laws and the requirements of your job. So that's where the middle ground is. The second part of that is, there's a lot of big businesses that are very established on Main Street that I drove here from Montrose today. My wife is going to the doctor. My son has soccer practice, but I prioritize this because this will kill my business, and it's been there for 125 years. So if it's asked of me, I would show up happily to say, yeah, this is not a great idea, and this is exactly why it'll impact you. And I'm sorry, I don't trust you to know how to run a retail business. I don't trust James to know how to do it. I don't trust Sherry. I love them. I think they're great people, and I think they work hard for our town. I think you're a great person. You work hard for CDOT. But you don't have the experience to do what I need to be done to protect my business. But I am more than happy to meet you halfway and sit in the room and give you some direction and make sure that, hey, you know what, this will kill downtown. Or you know what, that will work. And this is how we can mitigate it. And getting all these in-betweens of people that can communicate to us, and we communicate back to them, that communicates to you, and then wait for an answer. That's where I get scared, is because time is of the essence, because we're rushing this. We could have had a contract out in February, had it signed and things starting in March, and we would all be right behind you. And that's why I sit there and I go, well, what's wrong with next March? Because I would rather deal with potholes than an empty bank account, no employees, no business, and watching this town die. So if you're willing to do that for me, I'm willing to do it for me 100%. If we stop things and we're just saying, no, this is the way it's going to be, and we'll give you answers as we decide things for you, that's when I start thinking, who do I need to go to that can put a stop to this? But I don't want to be that guy. I want to support you and make this happen, protecting us.
Thank you. Thank you.
No matter when we start this project, it's gonna be a 2-year project.
I agree.
I'd rather it be 3 years, fall and spring than summer.
Have
It's
we
a
considered
timing,
asking
it's
the
all about
businesses in the town
timing in
about that?
Pagosa.
We can't.
We have
All
tons
time.
of mild weather
It's
nowadays.
seasonal here.
Mhm.
You don't start a project like that in June. I mean, it's
Because I would
everybody's
vote for
bread
a
and
4-year
butter.
project in a heartbeat if it met my business needs.
Okay,
September.
at this point in time,
November.
I would love to promise you that I'm gonna delay this, but I cannot. Again, the advertisement is out there at this point in time. We need to see if people bid. We need to see what the bid is. When we get that bid, you have my commitment. As we are working through this process, we will be taking a hard look at that timing. And we will be back with answers. We will be back with more communication. If the timing of it is looking like we need to push it out, then we will be pushing it out, okay? I can tell you that much. But because we have had this bid out there on the street for 5 weeks, I need to go ahead and allow the contractors, if they're gonna submit them, to submit them and honor that relationship that we do have with the contractors and the amount of work they have put in. Okay?
How long do they have to submit the bids?
They've been out there for 5 weeks.
But
We,
5 weeks ago, we made a
they have
decision.
to submit the bids to us next Thursday.
So they can't submit a bid
No.
10 days from now?
No.
It has to be next Thursday?
It has to be, we only open bids, we have a specified time and date that we accept those bids, and those bids are submitted, and we open those bids.
And then they have
And
to
that
review
is
it.
next Thursday. And then we review the bids, Kevin reviews the bids, I review the bids, Arthur reviews the bids, and we take a look at the bids. And we make sure, if it's too high, we can't afford it, then we go back to the drawing table to figure out how we restructure the project that we can afford it. We look at the bids to make sure if there's anomalies or that types of things in there. But if we wanna have conversations about adjusting start dates, those would be the types of conversations we could be having with the contractor when we open the bids, okay? So,
The other seed I'd like to plant is I know this project is taking away all the parking downtown. I'm one of the few buildings that have parking. James and I have went round and round about my parking because Cindy actually showed up at my parking lot, said that I must have a parking space per so much square footage of my building. So in order to have my outdoor events, I had to cut down my vendors because of my parking places. And then now you're saying you're taking the parking away from downtown. That's gonna force them to park in areas that is gonna take up other businesses that do have the Rainbow gift shop, the pawn shop, and myself to park, to be able to walk around downtown. So as a seed, you already know that's coming. So as of right now, this minute, I think the town or should be looking at where they're gonna place parking.
we are looking at that, there is a group looking at that, I've mentioned that a couple times tonight. So that work is going, we do not have answers for you
See you
yet.
later. Good luck.
We have Mayor Pierce in the back, and then I'll come right back to you. Mayor?
Good luck.
I was just wondering, Julie, if this group would be amenable to me collecting names of 3 people to be a representative of the group, so that if we do have questions during looking at the sequencing, that we could reach out to those 3 people to run anything past them, and they would be spokespeople essentially for the group.
I would be amenable to that conversation.
Okay.
Mayor, are you talking about 3 people in this room?
From this
Yeah,
group,
from the business owners.
3 people from this room tonight that you guys would trust to answer questions on your behalf. And I'm personally thinking Evelyn, Jeremy, and JR. But I don't want to put those into your, I want you guys to agree that that would be good spokespeople for the group.
Arthur's pretty willing.
Yeah, those are willing. Yeah.
Yes, Sherry.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Go ahead. The only thing I was gonna say is I own the park. Of course.
You can't say no now.
So I have 3 yeses. Are you guys all
I've opened up, well, it'll be open June 22nd when I do the dedication, but I've opened up, I think I've got 60+ parking spots over there. I have offered up to the town.
Awesome.
So
Thank you.
that will be public parking. You can go in the back of the buildings, you can go around the front, maybe pass all of the buildings, so all of that is available as well.
All right. Go ahead, James.
That's right. Well, I just want to, thanks for everybody showing up. We are going to move to the plan tables back there for anybody that wants to get more specifics on what's going on. I do want to thank everybody for being here. I do want to say that we are looking at a lot of different parking options that will be walkable to downtown. But it's also, back to Evelyn's comments, it's really important. First of all, this is really good turnout, and this is probably the best turnout that any town has had prior to a project happening. And it is the opportunity to work together as business owners to get creative on how you can support each other. It's not necessarily coupons, but it could be. We all see these parking spaces on Main Street and Lewis Street being parked in for 8 hours a day, and they're your employees, right? So maybe it's really working with your staff to make sure that they're parking in the remote places and getting bussed in, for example. I think that would be beneficial, not just for this project, but long term, right? We are getting shorter on parking spaces, and the less parking spaces we have for your customers, the less likely they're going to be parking to go to your shop. So I think there's a lot of things that you can do, and the Main Street Board is here to help you do that. They're your partner in getting these creative solutions. So please ensure you sign up for the Cone Zone meetings, because that's going to be the creative place to work together, find solutions that can work. And I don't have all the answers. Parking just for your employees might be one of them.
Can you waive property taxes for 2 years while this project is going on?
Consider it done.
Yeah, because that would help them.
Maybe, yeah. It's a question for many entities, right? It's the hospital district, the fire district, the school district.
No, it's a matter of survival for the businesses and the employees that work here. Now, who cares about that right now? They get plenty of money. They need to have compensation. That's one way to start to show good faith. You think? Waive the property taxes for 2 years?
That would be a question, as James said. You need to go to the commissioners. You need to go to the fire district, to the school district. Each district that collects taxes on your property would have to approve that individually.
Well, good. You're our elected politician. Go for it. That's your job.
I do have a quick question. Is there a way that the town could provide, if there was some kind of shuttle and you're proposing that our employees take that shuttle, is there a way that the town can provide a free pass for all of our employees to get to and from work to keep parking open? I think that's a minimal ask of the town to possibly give all the businesses 6 or 7 free bus passes for the summer so their employees could bus in and keep parking open.
So I would say there's a task force kind of working on that busing scenario. So I don't know where they are on that, but there are a number of committees that are working on these very specific ideas. And I think, again, they'll be kind of conveyed through the Cone Zone Committee. That whole the Main Street program has really stepped up, and the Main Street Board are all volunteers. They are volunteering their time to help the businesses find creative solutions, whatever those might be. But that's a great idea. And I don't know if they've talked about free busing, but Kat is shaking her head yes. So they're already thinking about that.
And before we break up, I want to mention that on this table right here are there comment or question cards. If you were not able to ask your question or voice your concern, you've got cards here that you will take and you write down your contact information, and we'll collect that again and make sure everybody knows what the answers are.
Thanks, everybody. And your comments are very important, so we do appreciate you sharing them all. I know it's a passionate subject. For those that want to see more about the plans, please join us.
She got us most of she's on the board. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
That's for sure.
Oh, no, absolutely.
I'm guessing this is your personal cell number since it's 970. I'll send you a message from mine. And then that way you'll have mine as well. Okay?
we can't stop that, we don't want to.
Boy, my fingers just don't want to type this word this evening.
Which one is this?
Yikes. Came out with both guns. Yeah.
This is West.
I'll send you a text here quick and then
Hopefully it'll just be a little bit more than what. I don't even know any of this means. I have them all in my email. Yeah, I think it was in the file.
I know, and I've talked to our public works guys about like, hey, have you been running scenarios right now about snow removal? Like, we've been thinking about it and working on it. This wouldn't be the only community that has a median, so like Durango, like 160 going through Durango has a median. So there's methods of doing it.
But is it?
But there's no median down Main Street.
No, not in Main Street, but on the highway. So the main thoroughfare of everybody going through Durango that's not sightseeing and stopping downtown.
But that's a lot wider.
A lot wider.
A lot wider. I feel like there's still room.
They got room to put snow in the middle in the wintertime.
16 years out. Everybody's the whole McCabe thing was
It's quite the experience for you.
It's a process.
The only good thing, maybe people will pull off to the right. Maybe the medium will force them to pull to the left.
And depending on if they elect to pour that slab on the that track will actually be 2 feet behind the net curve. So that's why they try to do it. I suspect some of this, like when it gets tight, at least at him, they'll probably end up pouring that. But I don't know.